What's up, weekend warriors, and welcome to the week 14 edition of the show. The YouTube is back. The content king is here. I made it. Adam Thielen is a Steeler, joining Old Man Rogers. See how that goes. But the commish is back and better than ever. Um, I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. That was last week. Yeah, it's crazy how quickly time goes. But as of this recording, it's dark outside. It's Wednesday night. Just put the kids down to bed. This pod will be dropping Thursday morning. Little nice morning podcast for y'all. Maybe probably won't catch you on your commute. We'll see what time I blast it out. But in any event, welcome back, guys. This is the most exciting part of the season. The playoffs are here. A lot of leagues' playoffs are starting next week. And for us, we got 2 more weeks of fun, some chatter in my group chat with some folks in the league, and you can make the argument the playoffs have already started, baby. The drama is palatable. Some big wins last week for some teams fighting, jockeying for position to make it into the dance. And we'll get into it because it was a fun week. I am happy to say for the first time this year, and I don't know how long it's been. I'd have to really go back and dust off the archives, but I went 5-0 with my predictions on the show. I got to give myself a pat on the back for that. That's pretty good. So I had Dean over Terry. That was correct. Dean took care of business there. I had Ott over CT. He took care of business there. Um, I had Booty over Jake. It seems like, bet against the guys on a losing streak seems to be a winning formula. Maybe I'll factor that into my picks this week. And then the two biggest games of the week, I think probably me taking down Seaval to get my ninth win was humongous for me. And then Kevin over Brett, I predicted it on the pod. That's a huge win for Kevin. A huge loss for Brett, but he is not out of it, not even close to. And we'll talk about that here shortly. The high score of the week was Ott flexing some muscle on the league, $25 to Otley. And 40-25 is what my 5-0 performance brings me to on the season. Pretty impressive. Stay humble, but a very nice week for me on the fantasy predictions. Stop me if you've heard this before. Thursday Night King comes up clutch. I actually picked every single game right on Thursday. It was a dog day. Had a feeling about the Packers. Gave that out on the pod. I like Dallas. Not sure if I said that on the pod or not. And then I had the Bengals was my official pick. 6 out of my last 7 Thursday night picks, including 3 in a row. So please stay tuned for my Thursday night pick later today to keep the streak rolling. And then my other pick, not so good. I had Colts minus 4.5. I think I picked it. No excuses. But then Daniel Jones had a broken leg. No exaggeration. After I picked it, that team didn't look right. Either way, I think the Colts are in trouble, but not a good pick. I gave it out. It was a loser. 11-15 now on the season for me. We talked about it, climbing back in, and let's see if we can keep it rolling. Feeling good about my picks on this pod right now. So, and this is the time of year. Well, first, let me just say, probably the least climactic fab situation on Wednesday. You can go in and look at it, but I'm not even pulling it up because I think 3 people got picked up and it was 2 of them were defenses. So really anticlimactic fab day. And, we're in the nitty gritty here. There's no way to pick up. There's bye weeks. No bye weeks last week for Thanksgiving. Now people, when you need your bye? Week 14, right in the middle of the season. Pretty annoying that there's still bye weeks going on. So some teams are scratching and clawing here to field some lineups with those bye week problems. But this is a classic time of year for me where I try to figure out playoff scenarios, and it's just usually so crisscross, the webs we weave, craziness that it's pretty impossible for me to pick and figure it out. I'm like Pepe Sylvia. Charlie trying to figure it out. And I will say if you go by the percentages here, let's start with the easy part. Malone, Terry, Chris, and Jake, you are mathematically eliminated. Chris and Jake are on 6 and 7 game losing streaks, respectively, and neither one of them wants to come in ninth. I feel like both of them want to come in last. We've said it before. Jake has a points lead on Chris, still by about 40 or 50. So Jake needs to win one out of the last two. Needs to hope Chris extends his 6 game losing streak to 8. We'll save the loser some money and a name change. So, Jake, I know you don't want to come in last again. Ninth place is looking mighty fine. Heck, you could even climb out above that potentially. But spoiler for those 4 teams, and then it's interesting. I mean, we'll flip it. We started at the bottom. Let's start at the top. Me getting my 9th win last week, it does not guarantee me to make the playoffs. However, it is huge. It gives me 96%. It sounds pretty good. I do like 96. When I would get that on a test in elementary or middle school, I'd be pretty happy. I don't think I got that on a test in high school, and I definitely didn't get that. Well, maybe in high school, definitely not in college. Maybe it was flipped. Anyway, from there, it is messy, dude. It is messy. You got 4 teams at 8 and 5, and what makes it messier is the team that's 7 and 6 has the most points in the league in Brett. And, despite maybe unpopular opinion and a 40% chance, I kind of think Brett's going to make it. This week he plays Booty. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself for my predictions, but I got to lay it out there. This week he plays Booty without Christian McCaffrey. I think Booty has somebody else I looked earlier that's not playing this week. Amon-Ra is probably not going to play. So that's a problem for Booty. And Brett's pretty much he's not at full strength. He has some bye week issues of his own. I'm getting ahead of myself on the matchups. But my point is if he can beat Booty without McCaffrey and without Amon-Ra, next week he gets Malone, who is, a formidable opponent, but not a top 16. So 2-0 pretty much locks up Brett's spot. Needless to say, Booty would go down a peg if he got beat this week, right? So we'll get into the predictions, but almost if I'm making my playoff bet, I kind of think Brett's in. This isn't like a reverse jinx situation. I really do think, predicting 4 playoff teams out of the 6 teams in the hunt, I think Booty might be on the outside looking in with this tough matchup this week. Although, let's see who he finishes the season with. I looked at this earlier, but it's tough to remember. My dad, see, it's tough. That could be a deciding factor that last week of who makes it in. And for you guys that are jockeying for position, I think you want me to win over Ott this week because I think Ott finishes the season with my brother, which, spoiler, any given Sunday, but, and then I finished the last game with Chris. So again, any given Sunday kind of thing, but if you're looking at teams you can catch, you got to be a little selective. Here's my advice to the teams that are trying to get in. Should try to win this week. I think that's important. I think that there are some really dud matchups this week that don't really have a lot to do with the standings. And then there's just some tremendous matchups that are essentially a week 14 playoff game. And I, for one, love the cinema of it. This is why we play. I feel like, honestly, if I was out of it right now, I would not be as emotionally invested as I am. However, I would be enthralled to see how this shakes out. Popcorn on the couch, feet up, seeing how it plays out. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the matchups. I guess I foreshadowed who I can't say if I'm going to try to predict my 4 playoff teams. I'm just going to go out and say I think it would be myself, Brett. Stay tuned. I'm going to give my other 2 as the predictions go. All right. Slight aside, because my math's doing all kinds of my brain's doing all kinds of math. We're going to give my Thursday night pick. I have been ungodly hot, and I have not cracked a betting code. Don't get me wrong. But what has been working for me has been not betting on the team that has looked horrible or not right to win and bounce back. It has not worked for me. On the contrary, the quite opposite has worked for me. So, for instance, last Thursday, the Lions have looked terrible. They almost lost to the Giants. They lost the week before that. I was like, I'm not betting this team at home. And Packers came in and beat them. The Ravens are essentially broken. Take the Bengals Thursday night. They beat them outright. And then the same thing kind of with the Chiefs. Everybody's like, hey, Chiefs are going to bounce back. Chiefs are going to bounce back. Dallas beats them outright. To take that even further for you Eagles fans, on Friday, the Eagles haven't looked right in a bounce back spot at home on Black Friday. It just didn't smell right to me. Again, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Dallas +3 in Detroit. Detroit has no offensive lineman, probably no Amon-Ra St. Brown. Dallas's run defense has actually kind of been better. +3 on the road. I got to take the Cowboys here. And the Cowboys are a classic, like, could let down at any moment. But I'm taking Dallas. And another pick I'm going to give you, this not official pick. I'm going with Dallas as my official pick. I almost took the over as my official pick, 54.5, because Goff gets in these games where they're shootouts. We remember that game. Oh, man, I'm going to forget who they played. I think it was Kansas City. I'm almost positive it was Kansas City. It was like a 80, 95-point game, something crazy. Goff gets in these shootouts. Only reason, and I still think it's going to go over 54.5. They're daring you to pick it and take it. I think it's probably going to be like a 35-31. The only reason I hesitated was because of no Amon-Ra and the offensive lineman issue. And I think there's a chance when Amon-Ra gets announced out that possibly goes down to 53.5. So I'm not fooling around with that. Give me the Cowboys. Stick with my what's working. Don't get cute. That's my Thursday night pick. Ramble on. Ramble on. All right, let's get into the matchups. We're going to knock out a couple pretty quick. So we have the first matchup here is Terry and Chris, two teams that are out of it. We talked about it. There is blood here. Remember, $25 to the high score of the week. There's blood there. There's blood in coming in last. Chris trying not to do that. Terry, technically, I guess, could come in last. He probably won't. I can't see how he would, barring something crazy happening. So there is some stake in this game. But listen, I said it earlier. Chris is on an unbelievable skid. Just a crazy losing streak. And, maybe Higgins is back. Bucky is back. He looked better. Herbert has a broken hand. He might not play. Monday Night Football, tough game. Terry has Dak in that shootout I talked about. He's got James Cook against Cincinnati. He's got Puka Nacua. He has more playmakers and better fantasy lineup than Chris at this point. And I'm taking Terry to take down Chris in week 14. Next one that, again, is just a last place kind of consequential deal. Although, Valone, it'd be nice to finish the season 7-8, wouldn't it? I mean, that's better than 5-10 or whatever you'd end up. So get some momentum going into next year. We've said it all year that Malone's team is kind of better than it looks. Can he keep Jake's head in the sand, in the dirt, and keep him in the basement? Well, it's not hard to summarize Jake's season. BTJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Zay Flowers, maybe the three most disappointing wide receivers in fantasy. Oh, by the way, Saquon Barkley, he has one game of more than 17 points on the season. Last year, he was just crazy. And since the bye, his totals have been horrible. So not to sugarcoat it, or not to the opposite of sugarcoat it, not to dump on him, but he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. He's scratching and clawing. Gave Booty a run last week. Even had Mahomes on Thanksgiving, but then Zay Flowers somehow got negative points, and Booty took him down. Like, I gotta take Malone. Same theory with Terry. Jake is on an unbelievable skid, and Malone has a better fantasy lineup. Jonathan Taylor, I could just stop right there. Justin Jefferson killed Malone, amongst some other things. But Ken Walker was mid pretty much all year. And the quarterback position, Caleb and Dart, flipping back and forth, didn't work out for him. Credit to Malone for staying in agitation mode, and I think he gets a win this week. All right, now it gets a little more interesting. And this is a potential matchup of the week, and I don't want to just write this off because anything can happen. And he does still have some star power with McBride. He stole Burrow as a throw-in from Brett. Godwin's back now, you know. Chris Rodriguez, DeAndre Swift, not my favorite. But on the other side of the ball, right now we saw it last week with Brett. He threw in Stafford over Lamar. That's who he has in right now. But Derrick Henry hasn't been himself either. So, maybe a down week from Henry, maybe a down week from Javonte Williams. Ibuka has not been himself. If some of these guys continue to struggle and Booty gets a 30-point game from McBride and a couple touchdowns from Quentin Johnston or something like that, maybe. So you're telling me there's a chance. But, this is pretty chalky as chalky can be. The counterpoint is Smith and Jigba, after a dud week, should go and be fine this week. Rashee Rice is a machine. Even without Rico Dowdle and George Kittle, I think Brett takes care of business. I don't want to overstate it. I don't want to make it seem like Brett already won this week. It's not the right thing to do. From a jinx perspective, it's also not the right thing to do because fantasy is weird. But I'm taking Brett in what I see as a pretty easy matchup and puts Booty on the ropes for playoff opportunity. So if you're following along at home, my playoff prediction, the next two games are going to be really important for that. So that brings me to the matchup of the week. My dad and Kevin. My dad, just a crazy season of started great, lost 3 in a row. I think maybe even 4 in a row. Fact check me on that. But what I do know is he's won 5 in a row. And what's probably more impressive is 2 weeks ago when he played Brett, he had Josh Allen on Thursday night get practically 0. And somehow won that week. That was a huge, huge week to kind of and that's a week when you should have lost, but you steal a win, and it changes things for your team. So my dad's super in the thick of it. Really needs London back. Really, really needs London back. His receivers with Wandale and Jawan Jennings on bye and potentially no London is really going to hurt him. Keenan Allen and Higgins, but Adams is just an automatic touchdown. But we said it on the show. Kevin, a tremendous win over Brett last week, and his team. We know Valone didn't give him the credit, but this team with Gibbs and Achane and Chase Brown in the flex. AJ Brown quietly, now he's the wide receiver 10 on the year, 2 weeks in a row of over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns over those 2 games. He's come alive. You still got Waddle and Odunze. You still got Tyler Warren. Tedero and Millet on bye, but if London plays, it could shake it up. And there's another thing I want to say. Josh Allen at home against Cincinnati. Josh Allen's weird, man. 45 points 3 weeks ago, then 3, then 16. If Dean can get a spike week, a 30-point week, and Bijan can do his thing, and Devontae can get his automatic touchdown, he can win. Harvey's been pretty good too. He's playing Vegas. But I think Kev's team is more well-rounded. He has the running back firepower. And I think he takes down Dean this week. That does not mean TKO for Dean. It certainly does not. And I'll tell you another thing. Kevin plays Terry the last week, so it's not a cupcake matchup at all. But if you're following along at home, my third playoff team, I think, is going to be Kevin, which leaves who out of the 3? Otley, my dad, and Booty fighting for the last spot. And that brings me to the matchup of the week runner-up, me versus Ott. A huge matchup. Ott, it's been a weird season for him. I think he thought he didn't have it, but then he's had it. Bowers coming back. Jacobs has been solid. CD came back. Heck, he might even get Evans back off of IR. Alec Pierce has been a revelation. Chris Olave has been getting more points than I think we all thought that he would this year with the crap that's in New Orleans. But my team, it's kind of weird, man. Chase, J-Mo, and Pickens have kind of been my core. J-Mo has been running really hot lately, especially with potentially no Amon-Ra. My running back situation leaves a lot to be desired, but hopefully we keep saying it. Reinforcements coming. Now Tracy hurt, Henderson on bye. Hampton on IR, but my man Manan dude has a touchdown in 4 straight games. He's kind of a backup running back, I guess, but he's been scoring points, so it's going to be him and Brees this week. I'm getting Terry, scary Terry back. Potentially had a nice week last week. Maybe Jaden and him can make some waves here in the playoffs, in the fantasy playoffs, I should say. So this is a close matchup. I don't feel confident about this matchup, and this is a huge one. Like I said, if I win and knock Ott down a peg, it could change the standings for you teams here dramatically, and for myself. A win this week locks up my playoff status. So, listen, I think Thursday night's going to be key here. He's got Lamb, I got Pickens and JMO. He also has David Montgomery. He's got Aubrey. We're going to know a lot after tomorrow. And Jalen Hurts Monday night. He hasn't been great, but he's still the quarterback 4 on the lead on the year. Still scores a bunch of fantasy points. Listen, I'm taking myself. I think I'm going to get it done. I'm hoping for a big night from Pickens and JMO with Amon-Ra being out. My team is kind of scratched and clawed. We're scrappy. We're predicted to win by 1 point, and it's a 50-50 win probability. I'm picking myself to beat you. Otley has my brother next week. So no offense to Jake. If Ott beats me, he's probably going to make it in because he's probably going to win next week. I'm calling myself to beat Ott, and I'm calling the 4th playoff team Dean. He has some magic to him. I think he's going to get in. Even with a loss this week, it's going to be super, super, super interesting. All right, my other pick. This is an ugly one, and it just stands out to me because Seattle rolled over Minnesota last week. Rolled over them. But their offense really didn't look that good. Like Darnold was under pressure. He was kind of slipping a little bit. We've seen in this league that teams like the Rams, they're a wagon. They lose to Carolina. Atlanta at home, I just have a weird feeling that that game's going to be closer than it should be. No one in their right mind is taking the Falcons. Give me the Falcons +7. When you're hot, you're hot. I have a weird feeling about it. That's my pick. Guys, next week is the first week before playoffs. I wish you luck in your endeavors this week. And it's going to be fun doing the predictions next week before the playoffs. Good luck, guys. Kamish out.